Hey everyone, and welcome to the first edition of Rare Rankings. And what better way to start that off than with my own top 10 favorite games of all time. Now, before we get into the list, I just want to take a moment and go over a few of the rules I had when putting this list together. First, I wanted this list to be a representation of my own experience in gaming, not of gaming as a whole. This means that this list simply represents what I have personally enjoyed playing the most, as opposed to what I think is objectively the best or most influential game. Second, I limited choices for the top 10 by only one factor. One choice per franchise. This is to keep the list interesting and representative of my taste as a whole. Being that this is my first top 10 list for the channel, I look at it as an opportunity for you as a viewer to get to know me as a gamer a little better. And if the whole list was just Mario and Zelda games, I don't think that would be very interesting. Third, and finally, this list is just my opinion. I'm interested to hear your opinion down in the comments section. Let me know what would make your list. And now that that's out of the way, let's get to it. Kicking off the list at number 10 is Castlevania Symphony of the Night. This is a game that's so badass that before you even begin, you have to fight Dracula in not one but two different forms. You're then introduced to Alucard, and you get to experience just how powerful he is before death strips him of all of his power and gear. This opens up the opportunity for you to explore the castle hunting down loot to get equipment powerful enough to take on each new section of the castle. And this castle is vast. The map is huge, and you'll have to explore two different versions of it, regular and inverted. It's kind of crazy. Along the way, you'll find various power-ups that allow you to transform into a wolf, a bat, and even mist. And then there's the bosses, 27 of them altogether, including many monsters of legend such as Beelzebub, Sauron from the X-Men, Galamoth, who's kind of like a mutated pharaoh, Death, Frankenstein, the Minotaur, Akmadan the Mummy, Medusa, and of course Dracula, whose final form looks like this. And if you can manage to find the Chrysogrim, it's pretty much game over for any enemy that you encounter. So beyond the obvious, what is it that makes Symphony of the Night so good that it makes my list? It's the combat, the dawn of the Metroidvania-style game, the music that sets the tone so well, the awesome variety and style of bosses, the difficult but fair gameplay, and everything in the game just feels so crisp and polished. It's a great way to start this list. Let's see what's next. At number 9 is Mega Man X, the first in a new series of Mega Man titles, and it kicked it off right. Just look at that intro. Of course, the thing we all remember most is the bosses, but part of the reason for that is the theatrical way that they were presented, and that really adds a lot of entertainment value. In some way, every boss had their own unique flair when they entered the fight against X. See, these were mavericks, not just simple robot masters like before, and they needed style. Each one utilized a combination of abilities derived from both animals and robots. It was kinda crazy. Mega Man X took what it made its predecessors so popular and perfected nearly every aspect of it. The level design used excellent enemy placement, tricky platforming, and added layers of exploration to find power-ups, some of which even opened up more exploration. As always, using the tools available to you was important. Some bosses even had unique animations when you used the correct weapon to exploit their weakness. There's something just so satisfying about taking Armored Armadillo's shield away, or freezing Spark Mandrill. And just like Mega Man titles before it, on your way to face off against the big bad, in this case, Sigma, you got to face even more bosses with even more unique designs that challenge the player even more than before. And then there was Sigma. a pest with 2 unwinnable encounters before you finally get the chance to take him down and turn him into scrap metal. Mega Man X makes my list because this is one of a few games that I can say that I have been a huge fan of, not for just years, but decades. The art, the level design, and the overall amount of fun that I have every time I play it has earned it a place in my heart forever. Number 8 is The Elder Scrolls IV: Oblivion. Now I know, why isn't this Skyrim? And the truth is, it's just a matter of a slight personal preference towards my time with Oblivion. Is Skyrim objectively a better game? Perhaps, but this is a subjective list, and Oblivion is my favorite in the Elder Scrolls series. So what is it about Oblivion that makes it so special? Well, just about everything. The guilds were entertaining diversions from the main plot. The arena was an amazing fight for glory. The Dark Brotherhood stands as one of the finest side quests ever created. The combat held up so well that even Skyrim didn't change it much at all. The world was alive, and you could interact with every person in it. Some of them liked you naturally, and others you had to coerce into it. You could approach the game from whatever direction you pleased. The amount of player choice available was unheard of at the time, and led to many players not stopping at just one run through the game. Maybe you wanted to play as a thief next time. Maybe you wanted to play as an Argonian. You could change how you did things every time you played. The narrative was wonderfully told through dialogue in the game, as well as several books you could find and read along the way. The goal of the game was to seal up the gates to Oblivion, which is basically hell, and save Tamriel from the demons within them. If you made smart choices when leveling up along the way, you could reach the final battle with Mehrunes Dagon in a reasonable amount of time. The soundtrack, the voice acting, and the visuals were all fantastic and before their time. I feel like I'm overflowing with nostalgia right now, so I'm just going to move on to number 7. Super Mario World drops into the list at number 7. This was the 4th entry in the main Mario series, and it shipped with the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, a console that is in the running for the best ever because of games like Super Mario World. As a platformer, it was all about ramping up the challenge as you progress through the game. It delivered on that, but it also opened up the world of exploration through secret exits to stages. Eventually, in the Forest of Illusion, you had to find secret exits in order to proceed at all. Otherwise, you wound up in a circular path with no exit. It also added the cape, a new way to fly, which opened up many new mechanics and many new places for you to soar to. One thing that Mario games have always had is loads of charm, and this is no exception. The introduction of Yoshi and its multi-talented siblings of various colors and abilities is what sets Super Mario World apart in so many ways. Didn't find those other versions of Yoshi? Then you haven't been to Star Road where they reside, and you definitely haven't taken on the challenges of the Special Zone. But that's okay, because the standard Yoshi can swallow up Koopas of various colors to obtain those abilities. Let's also not forget to mention the great battles with Bowser's family. Smashing the Koopa Kids has never been so great. The battles were fun and fair. The finale against Bowser was even better. It was great, and it maintained the same charm that the rest of the game had so much of. Then, you're treated to one of, if not the best ending, cutscene, sequences, whatever you want to call them, of any game ever. The walk back through all the places you'd been, the credits to each of the enemies you'd face, and the famous hatching of eggs that left the red and yellow Yoshis shocked. It all adds up to my favorite experience with the Mario franchise. Let's get on to number 6. The game that defined the Xbox experience comes in at number 6. Halo was a game that was special for so many reasons. The campaign offered one memorable set-piece battle after another. From the first time we meet and get to control Master Chief aboard the Pillar of Autumn, to the intense battle with the Flood through the floors of the library, to the epic dash to safety in the Warthog to close out the game, this defined what shooter campaigns had to be from that day forward. Halo didn't only change the landscape for campaigns, it exploded onto the competitive multiplayer scene as the definitive title in which to battle your friends. Load up your console, controller, cables, and a monitor, it was time for a LAN party. This kind of experience has become a thing of the past. A relic of an ancient time when playing video games together meant you had to physically be together. When you got a full group together for a Halo party, it was on. Since then, of course, online multiplayer has evolved into a much more accessible format, and that's a good thing. I couldn't find a match to play to record for this video, but I'll never forget staying at a friend's house all night long and playing Halo till the sun came up. At number 5 is my personal favorite fighting game of all time, Mortal Kombat 2. After the worldwide craze for Mortal Kombat, this sequel was hotly anticipated. Mortal Kombat 2 delivered on what every fan wanted most: solid combat with new and interesting combos that allowed for a bit of juggling, and then more importantly, the fatalities. Lots of gory, inventive ways for you to finish off your opponents after besting them in a fight. Johnny Cage could knock off not one, but 3 heads. Reptile instead just decided to eat their head. Then there were the quirky finishers, like friendships and babalities. What more embarrassing way to finish off your friend than by turning them into a baby? Mortal Kombat 2 also added a few new stage fatalities, like the acid pit and the ceiling spikes of the combat tomb. Then there's the bosses, Shao Kahn and Kintaro. They made up a deadly duo. Kahn would even taunt the player after beating them by pointing at them and just straight laughing at you. Even once you bested those bosses, there were tons of secrets to uncover. Like, what is this question mark? It leads to battles against hidden opponents, Jade, Smoke, and Noob Saibot. Each is really just a sped up version of another character. Although, they do represent the toughest challenge in the game for players that wanted to take them on. Mortal Kombat 2 makes this list because it holds a very special place in my heart. It has a great balance between characters, a challenging single-player mode, and too damn much brutal charm for me to pass up. Now, let's see what's next on the list. Getting close to the top at number 4 is Resident Evil 4. The first main series entry to step away from Raccoon City in the classic Resident Evil perspective. While the controls are still somewhat tank-like, they feel much more natural due to that changed perspective, taking a more action-like point of view and increasing the level of horror you experience because of it. At first, you begin exploring the disturbing Spanish village as Leon, searching for the president's daughter. It doesn't seem quite clear as to how this story will connect to the rest of the series, beyond just continuing the story of one of the protagonists, of course. But as you continue along, you begin to encounter monsters reminiscent of past games, but still somehow different. A new virus that we learn was created by Umbrella, called Las Plagas, has infected this village and its leader, Osmond Sadler. The gameplay revolves around puzzles and fights with gigantic monsters and horrifying creatures. Much like previous games, you must ration your supplies and ammunition in order to survive these encounters. Wasting too much ammunition or healing herbs on common enemies can often result in being ill-equipped for what comes next. Resident Evil 4 reaches this spot on my list not just because of its excellent horror and setting, but also because of the cast of evil characters that you encounter. Sadler, Krauser, Salazar, and Bitores make up an unforgettable cast of baddies. Don't forget that Ada also returns as an agent against all parties in her second villainous appearance in the series. When it was all said and done, Resident Evil 4 changed not only the series, but also the future of gaming, making it very deserving of a spot on this list. Now it's time for the top 3. Coming in at number 3 is Doom. My all-time favorite first-person shooter series is an easy addition to this list. Doom's formula was as simple as find a colored keycard and use it to unlock the corresponding door, and that got you one step closer to finding the exit of the level. Of course, you'd have to rip and tear your way through to get there. When you did, you even got treated to a grading screen that let you know just how good, or not, you had done. Every level was filled with secrets to find, and of course, more powerful weapons as well. Waiting at the end of the first portion of Doom was the iconic battle with the 2 Barons of Hell. We all remember that fight. Afterwards, you were greeted to an unexpected ending and were thrown to your inevitable death, where you can literally hear the demons ripping and tearing away at you. Your progress through Doom would continue as you found even more powerful weapons along the way, including a chain gun, rocket launcher, plasma rifle, and of course, the BFG 9000, otherwise known as the Big Fucking Gun. All this led up to the final ultimate face-off with the Spider Mastermind, closing out an epic and grueling battle through the hordes of hell that left every gamer who experienced it wanting even more. So what did Doom bring to the table that puts it in such a high place on this list? Well, first and foremost, it was one of the pioneering titles of the first-person shooter genre, and it has had an immense impact on the gaming industry, and it continues to do so as a series even today. But the original Doom brought with it an intense action that had not been seen before in gaming. It brought with it a soundtrack that is still amazing to listen to today. And it had unforgettable boss battles that challenged every gamer of every skill level. So it's easy to see why I hold Doom in such high esteem. So how can it get better than this? What else could possibly be at the top of this list? Let's move on to the top 2 and find out. My second favorite game of all time is The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. This game managed to capture my attention for countless hours, and it still does now from time to time. Though I swear I can still hear Navi in my sleep every now and then.
Hey, listen!
Zelda's first foray into a 3D open world was an incredible journey through Hyrule and time. A total of 8 dungeons, along with that huge open world to explore, had many secrets in it, like gold Skulltulas, and then it had mini-games like Bombchu Bowling to make it one of the biggest undertakings that was ever released at that time. And unlike many of the other titles dipping their feet into the 64-bit era of 3D environments, everything in the game felt polished to perfection. Now, the story isn't much different from most of its predecessors in the Zelda series. Link must save Hyrule from the evil Ganon. Along the way, Link will meet several memorable characters. And then there's the mysterious Sheik, whose reveal as Princess Zelda left me shocked, because I was so young at the time I didn't see it coming. The combat was fantastic. It was fun, and it could be approached in multiple ways. The boss battles were all unique, and each one of them had some sort of mechanic that made you use the tools that you had got recently. You had to learn how to play the game, and then you were rewarded with success for using what you had learned. In the end, you defeat Ganon and save Hyrule once again. I could speak seemingly forever about how much Ocarina of Time has influenced games. Everything from the top spot on this list to music-based games like Guitar Hero owe some of their existence to this classic title. Before we get to number 1 on the list, let's take a moment to check out some honorable mentions.
Round 1, fight!
Coming in at number 1 is, you guessed it, Dark Souls. I thought a lot about which entry in the series would take this spot, and I couldn't help but choose the granddaddy of all Souls-like games out there. In 2011, when Dark Souls released, it was the successor to Demon Souls, a PlayStation 3 exclusive title that left players wondering about what was possible for the next game. Dark Souls delivered an experience like nothing before it, a fully open and connected world where players could do almost anything they wanted. Let's talk about build diversity first. You could focus on heavy, strength-based weapons with slow attacks that dealt massive amounts of damage. Or you could focus on lighter, dexterity-based weapons that were fast but dealt less damage. Of course, there were also quality weapons, which were balanced between the two. Then there was the option for ranged combat with bows or magic. Even then, the magic was split up into 3 categories: pyromancy, sorcery, and faith. You could also build for poise or speed depending on the armor that you chose. The number of weapons and armor combinations that resulted in unique movesets was staggering, offering up so many different ways to play that I still pop back in from time to time to try things out that I never have before. Let's also not forget to mention with armor that you could cosplay as your favorite boss like Artorias, or your favorite NPC like Solaire, or you could just go out there as your favorite meme, Giant Dad. When playing Dark Souls, also be sure to take a step back and really appreciate the environments, from the swamp of Blighttown to the calming beauty of Ash Lake and the majesty of Anor Londo. From Software created some of the most compelling environments ever seen in a game. The combat system was perfection. Whether blocking, dodging, or parrying enemy attacks, if you were up to the task, you could use your skill to win the fight. The parry and riposte system was extremely satisfying, as were backstabs, both offering massive damage when pulled off. The need to create muscle memory for each enemy and boss in order to take them down in the optimal way created such a satisfying combat experience. And speaking of bosses, let's dig into the best part of the experience that was paired with an amazing soundtrack. The roster of bosses in Dark Souls is among the most impressive ever, only topped, in my opinion, by successors in the series like Dark Souls 3 and Bloodborne. From the early challenge of the Bell Gargoyles, to the iconic battle with Ornstein and Smough, to the epic bosses of the DLC, Artorias, Calamite, and Manus, and finally to the Lord of Cinder himself, Gwyn. Dark Souls bosses offered extreme difficulty, but were also a fair challenge. Yes, they beat you down time and time again, but for those who dusted themselves off and persevered through the challenges to best this game, it offered perhaps the best experience in gaming. All of this is why Dark Souls is my own #1 game of all time. So that's my list. Let me know down in the comments section what makes your own list. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed it. Perhaps you could also join the Discord or follow me on Twitch for even more content. Either way, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.